We'd just like to say that these podcasts were recorded prior to the COVID-19 UK lockdown.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.
That's October.
Right.
So that's Kevin Dearden.
Yeah.
Because he's ex-military.
Is that what you've been showing the emails with us? We've been seeing
yeah.
There's a lot of planning that goes into that, isn't there?
Oh,
when
man.
You're saying all these precautions
yeah. It takes, it's 18 months to get
does it? Yeah. How many people are working on that?
Me.
Just you?
Yeah. And I work as well.
I know.
Yeah.
That's a bit of an undertaking, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really unwieldy now. It's getting tough. Yeah.
What happens if it all gets cancelled?
There's not a lot we can do. We use angling projects quite a bit down at Heathrow, Les Webber's place. He's quite rightly just said, no, I'm just postponing everything for now until we know, how the land lies. We've just let everybody know, but people are disappointed, they look forward to it. And it's a lifeline for, John, I'll probably tell you later, but it's a lifeline for lots of them. It's the only time they go out, some of them. So, what I actually put a post up on our Facebook page for the day, because I'm really mindful that they're pretty isolated anyway, and now they're going to be even more isolated because, being made to stay in. And that's a danger zone. That's when people start to, we talked about that zone, you drift across or you drift through.
That moment, isn't it? Yeah. And you don't want people being in that moment for too long.
No. So we literally put a post out Thursday, something like that, just saying, contact us, we're here, contact a friend, contact some of the family. I listed some organisations, Samaritans and stuff like that, because that's that danger zone you could drift into.
So potentially, would you need a bigger support network now, because there are so many people that are signed up for this individually that are going to be isolated?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what happens, thankfully, is a lot of it they sort of self-monitor. But it's once they've come in and been through, that's when they feel comfortable doing it. It's the initial getting them through the door, so to speak, on the initial trip. Once they've done that, they've met Johno, they've met the other guys that have been through, and they'll tell them, this is great. We've got this little community. We've got a little closed Facebook group where you can say what you want. No one else is going to see it. If you're feeling a bit, and it's happened, isn't it? People have said, I'm feeling a bit low. I'm feeling a bit shaky. Okay, where are you? I'm in the car. I'm on my way. I'll pick you up. Let's go and sit on the bank for a couple of days. That's at the moment, of course, lots of the places are shutting down.
I know. Okay, guys, we're live.
Oh,
this is it. We're going to record now. So, Dr. Mark Wheeler,
hi.
Steve Johnston, known as Johno, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So we're gonna do something different on this podcast. Talk about some of the work you've done and PTSD in military veterans, and which is hopefully going to be very, very relatable to fishing.
Yeah, a lot of our work is linked now. We're utilising fishing very much in our. We've been researching for quite some time, and we use it a lot.
Yeah. So, what's your background?
So, my background, I come from the NHS originally. So, I worked as a trauma therapist in primary care in the NHS, and then I went to Essex University to do a PhD. I wanted to look at PTSD specifically because I live in Colchester, like a lot of the guys from here, and it's a super garrison town. So lots of serving and lots of ex-military families there. And I became really aware of how many were coming through our service and coming in for PTSD. But then would be telling me, that's the tip of the iceberg. There's 20 guys behind me, 20 guys and girls behind me that are not coming through. So I wanted to do some research and look into how, first of all, we could engage them. How can we encourage them to come through? And then perhaps more importantly, what could we do as an alternative to formal therapy that might benefit them and help improve their well-being? So I went off to look at different bits and pieces, and we've landed by design or default on the fact that fishing works really well for them, you know.
So I mean, you're an angler yourself as well.
Yeah.
And this was part of your PhD as well. So you know, the two seem to just fall into place really nicely.
It was very fortuitous because I ended up going fishing for my PhD, which was great. But no, in all seriousness, I mean, there was a moment. There was a meeting between myself and Dr. Nick Cooper, who's part of the psychology department at Essex University, and it was a chance comment. You know, I think end of a pretty tough week, and we both sort of said, you know, I can't wait to get out, go fishing, and then looked at each other and said, "What you go fishing to?" I said, "Yeah, it makes me feel better." And then we quite literally, it was over a pint, said, "You know, we should look into that. Why does that work? What's the elements? Why does
Nick's got a background, hasn't he? In is it brain science? So.
Brain science. Yeah, he's done a lot of work on anxiety and stuff like that. He's much more of a neuropsychologist, whereas I guess I would be categorised more as a social psychologist, or health psychologist. And
the two of you together formed iCarp, which we'll talk about later. But it's and Johno as part of Steve's. As Mark's work with iCarp, you joined, what was that, 3 years ago? And
I joined 18 months ago. I was invited to the study that took part at Le Carroy in France. And I got invited along to that. And it's an absolute game changer.
Right.
It really is. I didn't know anybody there. We all met in the car park at Colchester. How you doing? All right. And as you do with, it's a strange thing to try and explain, but you meet someone and they're a veteran, you automatically click. The language and the banter, words you use, you just bond straight away. And we went off and it was fantastic. Came back totally different. After about 2 or 3 days of being there, we got through because we drove overnight, which was a bit stressful. But after 2 or 3 days, everybody was chilled out. Everybody's relaxed. The banter, the laughs, and everything. It was absolutely amazing.
You were in the military for 22 years, weren't you? And you left in
99.
99.
I left. Yeah, I left. And like a lot of veterans, I struggled when I first. I didn't want to come out. But my main aspect was. Back in 95, I got deployed to Bosnia in the summer of 95, and I was sort of walking and driving around Sarajevo, and I'm sure we all recall what happened out there, the missile landing in the market square and the genocide we came across. At the time, we were too busy. I didn't get a chance to process it and what had happened and everything. And it wasn't till about 18, 19 years later, so we're looking at 2013, 2014, and I just started getting this confusion in my head, what was going on. I was getting short-tempered and aggressive, and I was kicking off. And I've always been relaxed and laughed, and joked, or really mad into my fishing. I had a match every Sunday on the Thames area. And I stopped all my angling, all match fishing, everything, just didn't do anything. And then eventually 2015, I was actually sectioned under the Mental Health Act and locked up and diagnosed with complex PTSD.
Wow.
So it's taken 18 to 20 years for it to come back up.
And I mean, that was quite a long time to be living with that after being leaving the armed forces as well, wasn't it? I mean, so it was a good 4 years of kind of living with the symptoms of PTSD, but probably just not really knowing what's going on.
That was the main problem. Yeah, was because there's the big thing in the military. Shut up, man up, get on with it. Come on, you're a tough cookie. Let's go. Let's get going. Let's get this sorted. So you're so busy, you don't process your thoughts and the traumas and this sort of thing. And I give myself a good talking to, man up, get on with it. But in fact, I was making myself worse. And that's the message we need to put out to people. If you start to feel not quite so good, or you're confused and you're wondering, you seek help straight away. Yeah. Because once you fall in that pit, it's a long, long way to get out. That's
what we're going to talk about on this podcast. Before we get into that, We've got a nice gift for us there, Mark.
Yeah, we have. It's quite intimidating getting you a gift, you know.
Why is that?
Well, I look at all these stuff from these, legends, and we think, I haven't got a stick. I haven't got,
We don't know how Danny's got on since he's given that lucky stick away to us yet. Actually, I'm going fishing next week. So
take it. I was going to fight you for it. We'll cut it in half, right? So we had some discussions. What should we do? What should we get? And for those that don't know, you guys at Korda have, been supporting what we do. And I think it's really important to kind of emphasise. I wanted something that might emphasise the difference that it is making, and you play a part in that. So here we go.
We need a drum roll here, Tom, don't we?
Feels like Christmas.
What is this? Yeah,
and it's not a football.
Well, I know we've already been told it is a football. You like those?
We have got a drum roll. I like it.
Luckily, we got the sticks there, haven't we? Thank you. Have we got Tobe? You should be here to unwrap this as well, Tobe. Really.
Oh, what, am I coming on to wrap?
Yeah.
Is this going to be the first time that? Yeah.
Go on, hang on.
Then you'll be a rapper.
Yeah, come on, Toby. The public can see you for the first time.
I think we've got a bike.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Blimey, the wrapping. How long did this take you?
Oh, hours.
Bailey, you're over there as well. Mark's son's here as well. Did you? You played a part in this.
Oh wow! Check that out.
Wow. What? This is.
Wow. Look at that.
Oh wow.
So those images on there, every single one of those images is a military veteran.
So we've got a picture here.
Yeah, sorry.
And it's wrapped up at the moment, but we can see we got a framed picture of military veterans.
It's all military veterans. They all have PTSD. Some, without mentioning which ones are those, some of those were actually some of them attempted to take their own lives.
Right.
Two on those pictures were very recent attempts to when they came in the trips. And I wanted something to represent the difference we might be able to make and the difference that Korda are making as well. So hopefully you can have a look at the the joy that you can see on these guys and girls' faces. Some of them are from UK trips, some of them are from the trips away to France. Yeah. Hopefully it'll find,
Mark, that is fabulous. And you, Bailey, thanks very much for this. Talk about brilliant. A personal gift.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, very, very personal. We will put that up on the wall here.
Yeah. If anyone's following on Instagram, we'll put some pictures up for you all to see it properly.
We will do. We'll put some Instagram.
The cameras here don't do it justice.
Thank you very much. Actually, guys, thank you.
You're welcome. Good.
Do you want to sign the embryo calendar while we're at it as well?
Sure. Go on, John.
We're picking some signatures up now on this. Going to auction this off at the end of the year. What do you reckon? About $1 million for this one, Tobe? Once we frame this?
Yeah, that's just my share.
Now Johno's name's on it.
Johno, yeah. Wow. Yours is very small, Johno, your signature. That's great. Thank you very much, guys.
You don't need a big signature to be everybody's hero.
Very true.
That was awful.
Yeah, who's got the biggest signature on there at the moment? Then
that's Danny, I think, with a big squiggle underneath.
It's got to be Danny's, hasn't it?
Of course.
Yeah, it's only natural. Guys, let's just talk about the benefits of fishing for mental health purposes, because obviously part of your studies and stuff is you've probably looked a lot more deeper into this than most people are aware.
Well, that's kind of the reason we did it, because there's plenty of anecdotal stuff, for years, and we all say it ourselves. It's great. I feel great when I'm out. I relax. And quite often you'll hear people saying, yeah, it's lovely, I'm by the water, at nature. And all those things are valid, but it felt like it really needed to be sort of scientifically nailed down. What are the elements that
Has
work?
there been a lot of research into this previously?
There's been some research that, without going too sort of in depth with it, there's two types of research. Is quantitative, which is statistical, figures, and qualitative, which might be sort of, spoken word and interviews. Lots of qualitative work have been done, less quantitative. So what I decided, or what I hope to set out and do, and we have managed to achieve this, is I wanted to do both. and to a higher level than had been done before. So I knew from my work as a therapist that with PTSD particularly, what's one of the major elements of all the successful existing formats of treatment was exposure. So that can be exposing yourself mentally to the memory, thinking about it, or exposing yourself by talking to it. So if I talk to you about, I had a really tragic experience happen to me, and I'm talking to you about it, I'm exposing myself to it by narrating that story to you. So it's that we knew worked, and that's a key element of all the existing therapy that's out there. So we needed to build an element of that into it. We know that green exercise or being outdoors, we know that works. There's a big school of research at Essex University. In fact, they're at the forefront of that. So we knew that worked. And Johno will probably be able to comment on the final element. It seemed really important, and when we looked at all the research that was out there, that there was an element of peer support. So sort of restoration of broken military bonds. Leaving the army, leaves you, feeling like you've lost a family. And so putting people back in with similar experiences so they could share those experiences, but they needed to be veterans, they needed to be military veterans. And what we've done with wonderful people like Johno is we've managed to take them through the program, but then we've utilised him. So we sent him off and asked whether he'd be kind enough to do an angling coach qualification, which he's done. And he's invaluable. People like John are invaluable because he can come back and be a mentor and talk to the guys in the bank. So, there's probably many other aspects, but the three major ones are that exposure, the peer support, and the green exercise.
You were saying earlier, John, as well, weren't you, that when you left the armed forces, that was really, really difficult for you as well. There was, before you realised that you had PTSD, there was maybe that sense of sort of loss that you actually, leaving the military in the first place.
Definitely. It can be a bit of a culture shock. Simple things, and I think the hardest thing I did was handing my ID card over, because that was my identity. Yeah. Literally, had gone. I was something, and now I'm just nothing. I'm just like Joe Soap walking around the streets and that sort of thing. Very hard, very, very hard, and adapting to, they would say, society or civvy street, as we say, this sort of thing.
Well, one of the elements of being in the military is one of the things is they teach you are better than civilians. Right?
Oh yeah, they big you up,
and then all of a sudden, then they're dropping them back into that role as civilians, so they have a sense of I'm not as good as I was. So it starts that low mood.
You lose, that's when it starts, and you lose this sort of like leadership and guidance aspect. You're used to, right, guys, this is this, and then you just sort of in a crew room, a restroom, or with a load of guys, and it's nobody gives a damn,
Yeah, so you're built up to join the military in the first place through all of that training, but there isn't the same type of training once you actually leave either, is there?
No,
so there's nowhere to go.
I found with the jobs I did, I'd go in, you do your 2 weeks or 3 weeks training for whatever aspect you were doing, and that was it. There's no sort of continuity training, and there's no more encouragement to do more and to progress. It's like, well, you do your job and just do your job and shut up and go away. Whereas in the military, it's do your job, right, you've finished, right, look over there, is somebody still halfway through the job, go and help them. And it's this big buddy looking after each other,
It's such a shame. We were talking, I was in Los Angeles a few years ago, and going through downtown LA and seeing all these tented villages. And I said to my friend, what are all these people doing here? All these homeless people. And she said, they're just the vets. And it's just so matter of fact, that they were, what they've done for their country, and then they're just and then they've got nowhere to go. It's just it's so sad to see that. I was going to say to you, but obviously fishing is played a really big part in rehabilitation. Why is fishing so good?
It's a good question. What we did to make the research really valid, we had to look at other aspects of outdoor activities as well. Otherwise, people could quite rightly say, well, it could just be being outside. It's not the angling element. So on the original, I did 3 original pilot studies. So a pilot study would be a much sort of smaller group of people that you would just run a test on and say, is there something here to look at? You don't really go in any depth. And so I looked at equine. I can't really say horse riding because strictly speaking, they weren't riding the horses.
Right.
But sort of an equine husbandry day. So I spent a day with horses where they were grooming, mucking them out, learning how to tack them up, sitting on them, and then being led around, etc. Which worked well. We did falconry and archery, and these all worked. But the angling, the fishing, worked. Not only did it work better, there was a stronger response, but it lasted longer. So the effect took longer to bounce back. So if you could imagine a kind of a graph, if the scores were all starting up here, they were all sort of clinically struggling. All 3 of those lines dropped down, but the angling one went further, and then they would, over a period of time, slowly bounce back. But the angling one would take a longer time to return to a clinical significance. So again, we have to answer why that might be. Otherwise, people can point a finger at us. And some of the theories we come up with, and we can ask Johno as well. But what we did, we thought the best way to find this out is to carry out some in-depth interviews and speak to people. And, hadn't really crossed our mind, but if I take 10 guys to the stables, 10 guys and girls to the stables, there's nowhere for them to really retreat from each other if things are all becoming a bit overwhelming or becoming a little bit too much. And the same if they're doing archery or falconry, etc. With angling, particularly carp angling, we set them up in their swim, we set them up with their own bivvy, and we have a separate area where they can socialise and get food and drink, etc., etc. So, if they're feeling well, if they're feeling strong, if things are okay, they can go and join in with the others and socialise. And of course, that's what we want, ideally. But if they have moments in the day where things are all becoming a little too much, they can withdraw back into the bivvy, right, and have that little bit of isolation, reboot a little bit. So we think that's a really important element. But there's other things too. There's skills acquisition. So I know Johno was already an angler before he came, but most or half of the people that come aren't. So they're learning a new skill, and that can be really rewarding. Catching a carp, even compared to what you guys go out and catching a carp, even a relatively small one, it's really exciting for someone who's never done it before. And look at the pictures. There are people there who hadn't fished before, and it's absolute euphoria. They fight hard. They're exciting. They're splashing in the water. So it's a real sort of boost. It's a real adrenaline rush in a good sense for a change, and they really enjoy it. So, the other things do work, but the angling has got.
Angling seems to work. You mentioned the other day, John, that you took someone fishing for the first time, didn't you? And this guy had never been fishing, and had a few problems, and you noticed the difference.
He was big thing with mental health. You can always tell a lot by somebody's eyes. And this guy turned up, and there was just about 10 lads stood there.
What are you looking for in their eyes?
Well,
what is it?
They're sunken, this sort of thing. You can always see. This lad was stood at the back. He was a couple of metres away from other people. His eyes were, his head was down, and so I latched onto this straight away. Hi, buddy, how you doing? Chatting away, and we went for a walk around the lake to start with, and then as Mark's done, he's made sure that there's a coach with every veteran or every pupil. And so I got this guy and I said, look, come on, have you ever fished before? And this is exactly what Mark's just said. He'd never fished before. And most, as kids, he always have a little dabble, but he'd never done anything. So I sat him down on my expensive box with my expensive rod, and I was looking at him thinking, no, please, don't break anything. He'd never, ever fished in his life. So I gave him the basics. I got him casting. I got him spraying maggot and hemp, developing his swim. And next minute, he started catching. Now, that guy had 7 roach and 5 rudd. They're only 3-4 ounce stuff, but he had those in an hour, his first hour of fishing. So we had a little chat and we were talking, but he came down. You could see the pressure, and he just dropped his shoulders and he was relaxing, talking. And go on, let's go for a little walk. So we walked around the lake, and so we came to the first bivvy, and there's people, and typical carp anglers take 3 days to set up. Yeah, it's just unbelievable.
Simon takes 6.
Unbelievable. So we get started. You got anything? No, we haven't started yet. You got anything? Yeah, 7 roach, 5 rudd. But as we moved on to every stop, 7 roach, 5 rudd, 7. But as we got to about the 4th or 5th one, his chest, his self-esteem, and he was like, well, I've got 12 fish, got 7 roach and 5 rudd.
Doesn't matter, does it? You can say 140 pounder or 12. But
it doesn't.
But they hadn't caught anything, and they've got all this gear there, and he sat there, and it only took an hour. Now, we are also very fortunate with iCarp that Korda are very, very generous to us. So from a financial aspect of the mental health approach, I'll give you a hypothetical figure. 1 hour's therapy with a psychiatrist, what you say? We'll say £100.
Yeah.
Okay? We'll say £100. Okay. So Mark rings me up. Johno, we've got someone, want you to take him out and, okay, no bother. Local, okay, £10 for fuel. 2-day tickets, we're now on £30. 3 pints of maggot, we're on £40. Then you need your veterans diet, so it's 2 eggy banjos or 2 sausage sandwiches and 2 cups of coffee. £50. For that £50 and the generosity of Korda, that guy's going to have 7 or 8 hours therapy away from everybody, away from society, chilled out, relaxed. You tell me that's not value for money.
Right. And it's interesting as well, because you don't necessarily, it's not reminding people that they're actually having therapy as well, isn't it?
That's the point. There's a stigma around approaching that, saying, I need therapy, putting your hand up and saying, I'm struggling. And that stigma is even more amplified for somebody who's a military person, even more of a problem, more of a barrier. But if you ask them to come fishing, and I don't say anything about, talk to people, enjoy being outdoors, other elements around the fishing, which, I haven't got into the great depth, but if you can imagine being in Basildon, in a really sort of urban built-up area, you're constantly scanning for threat and making sure that you're keeping yourself safe. Now, if you sit by a lake that's surrounded by fields, you're going to scan once, but there's no one there. So you can relax a little bit, it drops down like that. So although we don't use the term therapy, because I don't think we're actually doing a formal therapy, but it is therapeutic.
Going for a walk is therapy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's therapeutic, definitely. Mm. And if I don't say to Johno the first time he comes, come along for this therapy, if I say, do you want to come along for a fishing trip? It has a different connotation. There's nothing medical about it. There's nothing having to admit that they're struggling.
You think you found it easier to get people to do? I mean, are people quite resistant to doing normal therapy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Statistically, they're much more. Not only are they more resilient and reluctant to engage, but they also have statistically poorer outcome rates than general population, and a higher dropout rate. So it's it's a problem. Do
you know why that is?
We can hypothesize, we can guess why it is, but I mean, what I would say is that a lot of it, and if I've heard this sentence once, I've heard it 100 times. You don't understand because you're a civilian. You don't get it. And I guess there's a validity to some of that. Some of that is true. I don't understand what Johno's been through, and I know you've seen the documentary, so you've heard some of what. Thankfully, I haven't been exposed to those things. Mm. However, I do know the mental health side. So, no, I haven't been exposed to what you've been exposed, but do I know how to help you? Yeah, I do.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess that the key point in all that discussion is getting somebody into something that benefits them without them having to put their hand up and say, I need help.
Yeah, it's subliminal.
Yeah,
yeah. It's interesting as well because, Mark, you're a match angler. And Johno, you're a match angler, and the majority of the people that you work with, Mark, are carp anglers. Yeah. Do you find there's a difference between match fishing and carp fishing? When we were talking about this, I see match fishing as it's a lot more active, and you need to be thinking a lot more, and there's a lot more going on. And I liken it to meditation, where you're learning to focus on your breathing, and it's a bit like watching a float. You don't take the focus off the float, and you need to be doing other things. Do you think one's better than the other?
I think we both answer that different.
Yeah, we are going to. Yeah.
From my aspect, I mean, especially on a match, you stood there next minute, the whistle goes, and nothing else matters because there's money involved here. There's prize, and every little dip of that float could be the loss of 10, 20, 50 pound, that sort of thing. And like I said, the results table, at the end of the day, and I wasn't bothered about the financial aspect. I was always looking at my name being up there for my own personal satisfaction, my own self-esteem, and it was great, big me up. Yeah, I'm up the top. The results, I don't have to turn around and say I'm a confident and competent angler because there's last year's results. They show this sort of thing. But with my style, the match angling and the course angling side of it, as I did with that lad we had at Cambridge, you're working and working and working and developing your swim and getting them going, getting them in. And then once you got them in, you keep them there and you're dragging them out, you're laughing. And it's exactly what Mark says, you're out in the open and everything goes away. All your problems go away.
You're very busy doing that. I have to admit, we're carp fishing sometimes. We're not quite as busy, are we?
No, I'm going to take a different view. And I'm going to take it not as a carp angler, although I am a carp angler, but more sort of on a psychologist sort of train of thought. What Johno's describing, being really, really busy and active and keeping that swim going and changing floats and whatever that these guys get up to when they're playing around with these silverfish, in a way, in a sense, it's a form of avoidance. So if I keep myself really, really busy, then I don't have to think about what upsets me, what traumatizes me. One of the first things that any human being does, it's natural when you find something you don't like or you're traumatized by something, is you become avoidant. So you become avoidant of physical reminders of it. So, for example, if you were knocked over by a red car, you might avoid red cars, but you also become avoidant mentally. You don't want to think about the accident. So what Johno's describing does have a benefit, but a temporary benefit, because at some point you can't keep fishing and you're going to have to slow down. So my argument, different stance to Johno's, is with the carp angling, there's your initial flurry of activity, setting up and finding your spots and baiting, etc. But then there's always going to be an element of, once the traps are set, you're going to be sitting and be a little bit more mindful and have a bit more time to reflect. Now, I would suggest that it's in those periods where you do think about what you've been through, and that's that exposure element, which is really, really important. So both have benefits. We found particularly that the carp angling works at a better rate than the silver fishing. So, is it because of that element? I don't know. Is it because most people nowadays gravitate towards carp angling? It's probably easier for us as well to facilitate. We can get access to lakes with carp in much easier now than we can silverfish venues. So I would say definitely that for us, the carp angling is an important element, but not crucial. There would still be some benefit of doing silver fishing.
Yeah, I think, The majority of the time that I go carp fishing, I love it. I wouldn't be doing it otherwise. And when I was talking to a guy in here actually the other week, and he said the reason why he enjoys carp fishing is because he can get away and relax. And I thought, well, carp fishing is not really that relaxing for me. I'm quite busy when I go carp fishing, but I found at times I can have, as much as I can have some great moments fishing, I can definitely have some lower moments where there's a lot of time to think about things as well. Maybe at night a little bit more, or and it can be still and silent as well. And as much as I try and keep myself busy, there will be those sort of still moments as well. And I found that I can find that quite difficult at times.
Yeah, it is a thin line, and it can be uncomfortable exposing yourself to stuff that you don't want to. Of course, at night time you've got less stimuli. If it's dark, you can't see so much. You tend to be quieter because you don't want to disturb other people in the lake, or so there is less stimulus for your brain to be looking at, attenuating to. So you're more likely for those thoughts to pop up and come through. So it is a thin line. What I would suggest is, as Johno's touched on it already, what we do is we allocate an angling coach to each veteran that comes, or to each participant that comes, because we're going to move into different group categories of people this year, hopefully, if things change. So we allocate that coach. Now that coach is prepped and is aware that at some point this person might want to talk to you about what he's been through or she's been through. We also have mentors there. So people like Johno who have been through, they might be more inclined to talk to Johno because Johno's ex-military himself, rather than somebody who's an angling coach. Most of our coaches are veterans as well, aren't they? Most of them, we've married those two groups together. And we have support, mental health support staff there as well. So we think we cover those angles. But you're right, and you can't run away from yourself. At some point, you're always going to be on your own.
Johno, do you find as well when you're fishing? I mean, can it be difficult to get yourself out fishing sometimes?
It can be, yeah. This is a problem with PTSD. It's getting out. I mean, I was the same when I was training with the Invictus team. It's getting out on my bike. Come on, go. But the big dangle of carrot for me was I knew that in 2 or 3 hours' time, I'd be great because I'd burst out all my energy and all the stress and everything out on the road on my bike. And it's the same with angling. But once you get out there and once you start working your swim and you start catching, all your problems go away. And it's a big thing I said a few months ago. There's more to fishing than catching fish. And this is what Mark's proved with all the stats and all the paperwork that's been done there. You just put it in, you push enter, you'll see there's, like you said, that line of people's anxiety. We've just got to keep it going. I've got to keep it going.
Yeah. And what about when you finished? I mean, if you're fishing for the day, can you keep that positivity going for a long period of time after?
You can get realistically 24 hours.
Is that
therapy,
how you're right?
Because you've been out all day. I used to come up north of Colchester to take a veteran out. So I had like a 2-hour drive in the morning. I'd have 6 or 7 hours fishing with him. 2-hour drive back. Be tired, but I got back. But I was thinking, I'm tired, but I've had a real good day.
Yeah.
And actually, the big bit that built me up was I knew the bloke I'd taken out that day. I knew how much he'd benefited because he wasn't very able-bodied. He wasn't very mobile. So I got a double whammy for having a good day myself, but also knowing that he'd had a good day. And that's where I got it from. I got a real good kick from that.
Yeah, and it's just being able to maintain that when you're not fishing as well. I mean, do you find that difficult, or have you learned from going fishing regularly and doing this stuff with Mark to be able to?
Yes, I have. Like I say, you just got to sort of reminisce. We're all very quick to ruminate about the bad things and what we've seen in the military and all that lot. But if you can divert from that and think, that was a good day yesterday. I mean, a lot of people won't understand it, but to go out and catch 24, 25 pounder roach, when it's all 3-4 ounce stuff, is a busy old day, and you'll come back absolutely bladdered, But for when you want to go out and that's you're achieving, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
it is absolutely fantastic.
Why is it so difficult for us to? It's like going for a run, isn't it? But I mean, I know full well that if I go out for a run, I'm definitely going to feel better. Yeah. Or go for a walk, anything like that, you're going to feel better afterwards.
Yeah.
Why do we find it so difficult to motivate ourselves sometimes to just do that in the first place?
It's tough. It's human nature, isn't it? I mean, and maybe that's. I mean, I find it less difficult to motivate myself to go fishing. So maybe that's another benefit of if we can get people into the sport. It's perhaps easier to motivate yourself to get out on the bank than it is to go down to the gym. I don't know. Maybe somebody would argue against that. For me, certainly, if you're going to give me the option of the gym or the bank, I'm going to go down.
But we still know I mean, exercise is difficult, but we still know what the mental benefits are going to be for it, don't we?
Yeah.
It could be so difficult to resist the reward of doing that at times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's what got me going. Is that look? In 5 or 6 hours' time, you're going to feel great. So it is hard to get going, exactly like you say. But if you can tell yourself, look, if you go and do it,
that's exactly what it is.
Tea time, you're going to be sitting here bouncing, all relaxed, and and then from there, you sleep better. You sleep better, you feel better, you eat better, and it keeps going from there, keeps developing from there.
You get into this routine, don't you? It's setting these healthy routines as well, isn't it? And once it's like setting the bar a little bit higher each time, isn't it? Until you have this expectancy to do this for yourself, and if you don't do it, you feel guilty for not doing, doing it in the first place.
And it is about, like any sort of recovery of any sort, it's about making the goals small and achievable. So, we use the metaphor in mental health a lot that, if you want to run a marathon, you're not going to go out the first day and attempt to go 26 miles because you're going to break down and then decide that you're never going to do it and you won't go back to it. But if you spend the first day buying some trainers online from Amazon, and then the second day perhaps getting a book and reading about it, and third day maybe go for a short walk, make the goals small and achievable, you'd like to think eventually you'll get yourself there. And it's the same for mental health. It's the same for recovery. I can't sit here in all consciousness and say, send me anybody in any condition, mental health wise, I'll take them fishing for 3 days and they'll be cured. That's not true. Will they be better? Yes, they'll certainly be better. But do we need to keep that dosage going in? Do they need to keep? Yeah, they need to keep going. They need to keep that, excuse me, that sort of behavioural activation, keep themselves motivated. So small incremental steps and achievable goals is the key. If you set something too high, I guess if we take the analogy of carp angling, I'd love to go out and catch a UK 40 or 50. But it's going to take me a very long while to get there. I've got to hone my skills and get to better lakes, etc., etc.
Yeah, it's having realistic expectations, isn't it?
Yeah.
And and if they're realistic and they're achievable, it's you need goals that are attainable rather than completely unattainable.
Yeah.
Getting onto iCarp. So you've done your PhD, and so did forming this company with. It was with Nick.
Dr. Cooper, yeah. So the PhD, I did my PhD part-time. I worked at the same time. So it took 6 years to complete. And I was lucky enough to win an award for that as well. So it really felt, it was, I guess a lot of people probably feel this way at the end of a PhD, but it felt too good to let go. And it becomes very precious to you as well because you put a lot of work into it. So we set up a small community interest company. So it's like a small charity, if you like. And that's myself and Dr. Cooper, and we have two other directors. We have Dylan Tracy, who is a carp angler, and he's ex-military. So we use him for all our any queries or questions we have about sort of interaction with the military, he's our sort of go-to guy with that. And Chris Rainbow, who is much more knowledgeable about fishing than I'll ever be. So we utilise his knowledge in those areas. What we've been doing is continuing to run the trips. Essex University have been really supportive. They have got PhD students following on behind me to carry on looking at similar work, not exactly the same, but building, trying to broaden what we've learnt. So adding on different areas and looking at that. And the research continues there, but we needed to keep going. And there's plenty of places that we can go, as in other groups that we can work with. We're hoping very much to move into the 999 blue light services. Yeah. And we also looking at doing some work with early onset dementia sufferers and their carers. But it is it's a challenging thing to put on. There are many obstacles. I mean, I'm sure you guys here sort of, perhaps doing a Monster Carp episode, how big it is to put something like that on. Mm. Now, I'm not for 1 minute saying it's as big as that, but you can imagine, we have to cater for these guys. We've got to feed them. We've got to get equipment there. We've got to get tackle. We've got to get bait there. We've got to find a venue. Then we've got to, and this is really important, we've got to monitor them. We've got to make sure they're okay. I know you came and watched our documentary, and thank you for coming to see that. But there's a really good example in that of how important it is that you monitor these guys. Johno being one of them on that trip that struggled because of extenuating circumstances, things that happened. So it's a challenge to keep going.
So how do people come to you?
Well, initially we were getting referrals, and we do still continue to get referrals from NHS services for military veterans. It used to be called Veterans First. It's now the TILS service, and that's in Colchester. And we get military charities will refer people in, but it's also word of mouth now. You guys have put stuff out on Instagram, and we've had people contact us through that. Through Johno's contacts, people will come through. Maybe.
Were you referred, Johno? Were you referred to iCarp, or how did you find?
No, I got invited to come along to the trip. Word of mouth. I think it was Dave Coates, wasn't it? Yeah. Good old Dave Coates. He got involved with Mark for helping with the equipment, and Dave just said, all these guys you're taking, take one of our guys, Johno, and go on. We'll give you this gear if you take Johno with us. And Mark was like, "What's the story?" He said, "Look, he's actually in a bad way," and I was a couple of years ago. I was really, really in a bad way, and this brought me through because I'd had treatment with a charity, and then it was a case of, well, you've had your treatment, off you go. You're deemed as cured, and it's not. A lot of this with mental health, it's not about curing them. It's helping them to manage it, and when something happens, I mean, hypothetically, loud noises. Don't do loud noises, crowds, or bad smells. If I'm at a train station, I'm at Bushy in Watford, and the woman says, the next train coming through platform 4 will not be stopping, stand back from it, and it's the old Virgin coming hurtling through. If it goes through quickly and I get shocked, as you saw in the documentary, I just go off on one, and I can't do anything about it. I dissociate. What I do now is I look at the train coming down the track and go, it's a train, it's a train, it's a train, it's a train. So it's managing your symptoms, and this is what the iCarp does a lot with you. It educates you of how to not overcome the problems, but it helps you manage your mental health condition.
Did you notice a difference straight away?
I've got to be honest, I did. By day 3 out in France, I was totally different. Yeah. I just all of a sudden, I took a few days because obviously I suffer badly with the old hypervigilance. I'm always looking around. Everybody's a threat. So driving overnight, lads were all crouched up and trying to get some sleep and all that lot. I wasn't. I was like wide awake, you know. Where's this? What's that? And it's just the way you get trained, you know, and so it's drummed into my head. And then when I first got to France, I'm looking around everywhere. But after 2 or 3 days, and the banter and this sort of thing, and there was no threat, and it was like almost like being back in the military, because the military jargon was coming through and the banter and everything. So by day 3, I remember walking, and I think you see me on the documentary coming down. I've been to the shower, I've got a towel over my shoulder. I comes down, bonjour. I shouts at the lads, and I think that was the moment that all of a sudden I was just totally different. I'd relaxed and I'd
that
really
must be
got
great
into
seeing that as well, Mark. Seeing everybody changing like that.
Yeah, they're like it's like watching a flower open up or something. You come in and they're, you know, understandably they're really sort of really tight knit, and they relax and open up, and then they open up emotionally and verbally too. Start telling me to myself or each other about their experiences and about their symptoms. That again, really powerful. Many times people tell us, I thought I was the only person who felt like that. I thought I was the only person who experienced that. And it normalizes it. So if you're one of 10 and all 10 of you struggle with your sleep, okay, that's not such a, you know, I'm not such an outlier. I'm not so different to everybody else. So that could be quite powerful for people too.
Johno, do you find being around ex-vets easier? Being around people that have experienced what you've been through and stuff anyway?
Definitely. I found when I took ill, and sort of through 2015, because I think it was like August I got sectioned, but through 2015 I was starting to lose my friends because I was kicking off and, you know, just snapping at people and effing and jeffing and growling at everybody, you know. And I'd stopped my fishing as well. And I thought fishing would, you know, it was my little therapy, it bigged me up going to having a match. And, you know, it can be a bit of a downer if you're blank. But there again, the other side of it, you've been outside in the fresh air. You know, there's nothing worse than being, you know, cooped up in your own living room with no one around, and television's not very good, you know, this sort of thing. It's and like I said, I started losing all my friends. So coming back into it, not so much that what initially happened to me, but especially coming back with this iCarp, because Mark's recognised I've got, you know, I'm a competent angler. Mark has seen that, and they also the encouragement I was given to do my diplomas, with the mindset being that the best counsellor for Alcoholics Anonymous is a reformed alcoholic, because he has actually been there. Well, I've actually been there. I've been sat on that railway line. I've been on the balcony with a rope around my neck, going to finish it all. You know, I've actually been there. And you can go into a psychiatrist and he's got all these books on his window ledge and all these letters after his name. But the worst thing he can say to you is, I know how you feel. Do you?
That's a bad thing to say.
It's actually the worst thing he can say. But whereas I can say to a guy, yeah, I pretty much know how you feel, mate, because I've actually been there. And this is hopefully, you know, the good encouragement I've had from Mark, and also from Mary, who's looking after me. It's really brought me through. And the big thing was, I understand now what went wrong through doing my diplomas, because reading through, I can go, yeah, that's me. That's right. Yeah. Now I remember that bit and this bit.
Well, you've done nine diplomas in a year.
Something so
I didn't think that was possible.
I don't work, you see. I haven't worked for nearly
quite
5
hard,
years. But it's also, the thing here is, Simon, I've got a chronic mental health condition. So I'm looking at things that relate to me and that I can recognise. It's not like, you know, I'm doing a degree in chemistry or whatever where I know nothing about. I've gone into these diplomas knowing that I've got problems, and I can relate to, when I'm reading a bit, that, yeah, that's me, that's why it's happened. And they say something that you will tend to, I'll go, yeah, I did that 6 years ago. And that was me starting to fall off the road.
Right. For you to see that Mark, is to see people kind of taking, so from fishing into, doing diplomas and re-educating themselves. I mean, that's the extension that you need to go on from what you're doing in the first place, isn't it?
And we have to sort of pay tribute to, not everybody can quite achieve what Johno's doing. He's doing fantastic, but we have had lots of success stories. We've got Johno is not the only one. We've got Spencer, who's put himself through a degree. He's done a degree in counselling psychology, and perhaps people might think at a lesser extent, but not in our view. People have managed to get themselves back into employment, maybe gone back into education, reunified with family, perhaps got back with spouses and children and stuff like that. There's lots of success stories. Not everybody, we can't claim that. Not everybody, and not everybody has a completely smooth road. And Johno will be very aware. He will hit a pothole at some point. There will be something that triggers him perhaps and puts him back for a few days. But he's now got the skill set. He's got the skills to get out of that hole and move forward.
I just want to. I've just found some of your pictures actually from the website. I'm just going to chuck them up because I know. I know the guys at home are going to always see some of these because some of them they just look like they're loving it out there.
Yeah,
I recognise some of these from the film. We'll talk about the film actually soon, but it fantastic, isn't it? To see that.
And great fish too. Look at the fish.
I know. We'll talk about it because there was a late record, wasn't there, in this?
Yeah.
And
I think it's this one. Yeah, Big Loretta. The fish is. Oh, there she is, Big Loretta.
But it's great seeing the arm around each other and the camaraderie. That's so important.
That's a great picture there as well.
Yeah,
that's Nathan. Yeah.
Well, what's going on?
How many?
Well, that's.
Should we pull this one up?
Yeah, that's us. Yeah, that's.
I tell you what, we're looking at your dog as well there.
Yeah.
Is that Bex?
That's Beck. Yeah.
Beautiful.
She's lovely. You've lost the picture.
I've lost it now.
It's down there. There you go.
There it is.
So that's it. Some of our coaches. There you go. So we got Mike Bridges, Dylan Tracy, myself, Chris Rainbow. We've got Ben Andrews and Stu Lennox. And these were the guys that went on the trip that the documentary was focused on, to Le Curoy in France. To the owners, Dan and Jody, very, very generously have let us use that a couple of times, and hopefully will continue to do so moving forward. And this is just a shot. Actually, we were about to leave, I think, weren't we? We just got together about to leave. But those guys, I can't quantify. These guys have given up. None of us get paid. Nobody in iCarp gets a wage. No one gets a penny. These guys gave up a whole week of their own time, so they're booking time out of their work, employment, using up their annual leave or losing money, whatever it might be. And their dedication to helping people not only fish, but monitor them and keeping an eye on them. I think, as we say, you've seen, because I'm able to drop coaches around the lake, when there's not a mental health practitioner nearby, I feel comfortable that someone can pick up a phone and go, okay.
How many coaches do you normally need on a trip like that?
We try to do one coach per 2 anglers. So in my mind's eye, I've got 2 adjacent swims, and we'll put a bivvy in between the 2 with a coaching, and he'll flip between the 2. So on somewhat what we'll tend to do is, we do sort of think about it quite depth. So if I got somebody who I know may well struggle and needs really close monitoring, I'll pair him with somebody who's quite a competent angler. So if they're quite a competent angler, the coach will need to spend less time, you would like to think, than with somebody who might struggle. But we can all learn, can't we? I'm forever picking up tips of people on these trips, and the guys work really incredibly hard. They really, as I say, I can't thank them enough.
How many trips do you have booked annually? Just might as well get onto this. The coronavirus.
Yeah,
and it's starting to take hold a little bit now, isn't it? And affect. a lot. And actually, it's interesting this week, actually, because a lot of people seem to be going fishing at the moment, which is hopefully this is the right thing to do. I mean, hopefully this is self-isolation, and we're actually we're benefiting ourselves.
I mean, it is. As individuals, I think, Johno, you were saying earlier, it's ticking all the boxes. You're more than 2 meters away from everybody. They're the government encouraging us to take exercise, and we are exercising when we're barrowing around a lake and setting things up, etc. For us, it's not so much, because we have that element of at times we need to be in close proximity. If somebody is struggling, I need to be with them. And sadly, as we were talking before we started recording, we had a whole program of trips for this year. Every single one of those currently has been postponed until we know where we're going with this. It's such an uncertain world. Most of those, in fact, has been because the lakes that we use aren't our own. We're at the mercy of people who are very generous and lend us lakes, or let us rent them at perhaps a reduced rate. But they're business owners, and they have to adhere to government guidelines and others. So sadly, at the moment, everything is postponed, which is a really strange situation for us. Well, everybody's in a strange situation, but it feels really weird. And there is a knock-on effect, potentially a negative knock-on effect for people that have, found a little bit of courage, enough courage to say, what, I think I will go on that trip. I will book in and do that. And then to have that little light at the end of the tunnel taken away from them, it could be detrimental. So we're reaching out through our social media and just hopefully checking in, saying, what, there's a community here. If you're feeling low, if you're struggling, if whatever it might be, contact us, contact a friend, contact a family member.
So I mean, I guess this is stepped up work more for you now, because before, the therapy was for these people as well, and the excitement was these fishing trips ahead, and it can have an opposite effect now. I mean, are you guys thinking, right, how are we going to deal with this? And
we are. And it's something that it needs to be thought about. Somebody said to me quite rightly, when I went to give a talk and tell people what we do, quite rightly said, well, how do you stop them falling off a cliff at the end of this trip? You take them away for an idyllic week fishing in France with a bunch of guys, and they're socialising, and they're getting fed, and they're getting free coaching, and then you've got to return them back home. At some point, that holiday romance, if you like, finishes. How do you stop them plummeting off the cliff? And it's a valid point, and it's something we really have to be creative and try. It's kind of
working back to front a little bit now, isn't it?
Yeah.
What would normally be, the follow-up work afterwards is kind of the other way around at the moment.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we try to get them to self-monitor.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, out of the norms of most people, I never had a Facebook account until I started doing this.
Me neither.
But it's a necessary. I want. They asked me to set up a group on Facebook, so we have a closed group. It's invite only. You can ask to be accepted to it. What that is made up of. Majority of people on there are people that have been through the trips. So there'll be people who have experienced it, or people who have volunteered and worked on them. Now, it's a relatively small, but it's a really nice group. They monitor each other. We encourage people, go on to here, join here. If you're struggling, let us know. But it is a worry. And coronavirus in general.
What's your take on this virus at the moment? My reaction at the end of last week is, do you know what? I haven't been fishing for a while. I'm going to go. I'm going to go fishing, and I think a lot of other people, noticed driving down here today. So we're recording this at the end of March. We're not sure when this podcast will be going out, but this is the end of March. And you noticed this morning coming here that there's a lot of people out fishing at the moment.
There are. We drove past. I think it's Cuton Lakes on the A12. And it was packed, it was jam packed. So, and myself and Bailey, we've talked, let's get out, let's get on the bank, let's isolate ourselves. But in a more general sense, what worries me about it is that, of course, there is a practical reason that we're encouraged to isolate and to sort of lock ourselves away, but that can be very detrimental for people's mental health. So, apart from all of the financial elements, all that worry and the tsunami that apparently has come in, according to France, of people needing medical care at hospitals, potentially there could be a tsunami, if you like, of people struggling with their mental health, and it's a worry. Yeah.
Johno, have you thought about this a little bit? What's going to happen if you can't get out more?
Well, this is it. What's going to happen? I've noticed, as Mark's saying, it's ticking all the boxes because the guys are out, they're on their own, they're in the bivvy, this sort of thing. But matches, I'm seeing all the matches are being cancelled because with match angling, you're all grouped up to start with for a draw and all this sort of thing. So it's a different setup. So matches are being cancelled.
So
I'll say it's worrying times.
Definitely worrying times.
Yeah.
There's so much uncertainty.
This is it. This is the thing. It's the uncertainty, and I'm getting a little. I mean, I've been on exercise where there's just people out there panic buying and fighting for this and that. And I've thought, hold on, I've sat in the woods on exercise for 3 or 4 weeks at a time with the best part of nothing, a tube of, the old wrap packs have like a tube of Spangles in and a tin of meat and some brown biscuits. And
what's a Spangle?
That's an old boiled sweet.
Oh, okay.
You youngsters.
I knew really.
It's, and I'm seeing all this panic buying. I'm thinking, why? And I don't want to wish ill on anybody, but I'm just seeing people going out panic buying, getting all these toilet rolls, getting all these paracetamols, getting all these bags of pasta, and then unfortunately they go and die, and all this stuff will get thrown in the bin. They're absolutely bonkers. The world has gone mad.
Lady that
I
was talking yesterday, and she said she was in a supermarket and there was a boy with a trolley full of baked beans. A whole trolley full of baked beans.
He wasn't lying in it for like charity or something.
Oh, God knows. That was a terrible wind as well. You imagine eating if that's what he's planning on living off for the next.
God.
But
you wouldn't want to be isolated with him, would you?
Isolate in his house.
No. Mind you, definitely be self-isolating then, wouldn't you?
Definitely. Yeah.
But just crazy. And he took all the baked beans off the shelf, and people were asking, do you mind if I take, it's just, and apparently his dad's behind him as well had a trolley full of, it's just crazy.
It's crazy.
What
quite
goes through
scary
people's minds?
times.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, like I say, I think at the moment, providing they don't turn around and say, it's not safe to be outside fishing or doing those type of things, we will continue to do that. I think until we're told differently.
Jostling on the bank for room, aren't we?
We're not being irresponsible though, are we?
I don't think so.
I think you're being very responsible, getting out there because. Exactly what you're saying.
That ticks all the boxes.
It seems to. It seems to. You can't think of much else, can you, at the moment, which, at least gives us a little bit of, gives us something to do, without being in close proximity to people.
Well, this is it. You get out and you're on the lake, you're not,
Yeah.
At home, having the domestic, the wife and the kids, you're sort of sitting there after 3 days saying, who are you? Your wife for 20 years. Oh, sorry.
That's great, yeah.
It's, it is worrying because it's uncertain, but I feel we're also the authors of our own misfortune a lot here. People just wise up, keep themselves clean, tidy, wash their hands, sanitize and all that, and clean, have a little bleach around the old house and that sort of thing. It'll be over and done with. It's
well, let's hope the Chinese have really got rid of it and they're not just pretending that they have. And because, like I say, when people are listening to this, hopefully,
hopefully we'll be out the other side, won't we?
But
you've seen how clear the water is in Venice. Because the old gondolas out going around there.
It was the same. They looked at the emissions over China.
Emissions, I heard that.
And it's
right down.
Gone. Yeah.
So perhaps it's a conspiracy by someone from the green environment.
You reckon?
I do love a good conspiracy.
That'd be great, wouldn't it? Yeah. They did it on purpose.
The old mayor of London will be panicking now because his emission charges won't be getting. He'll think of something else now. Well, I'm going to hit you with an isolation charge. You've been in your house for 24 hours. That's 30 quid.
They need to find a way of taxing us after this.
They'll tax us for something else.
Oh my God!
I feel sorry for things like the black cab drivers.
Yeah. Oh, it goes all the way. It's a domino effect.
There's even from my own perspective, my uni's been cancelled.
Yeah.
And we were talking earlier, and there's, if you're in your third year like myself, there's goodbyes you missed. There's talks of graduation.
And that's a big part of your uni life, isn't it? That the ending of it and the social element of it, you've been robbed of that.
Yeah, it is. It was heartbreaking. It was, because there's friends that I've been for 3 years. I had to text goodbye. And that's not right, is it?
No.
So.
Bailey got sent home. The schools are closed, and he's at the end of the first year of A levels. But there's children a year older that didn't even get to sit their exams, and I know some of them may think, "Oh, that's great," but they might get awarded grades that perhaps they could have got even more, and it's always going to be slightly hollow, and
it's this all this mock exam stuff and being graded off your mock exams, or it's just going to go one way or the other, isn't it?
Absolutely.
There'll be a lot of appeals, won't there?
You're going to be loads.
Oh yeah.
Human rights lawyers involved. That's the way to go forward. Become a human rights lawyer now.
Yeah, it could be a good time. Some people will prosper at the moment. I suppose.
No doubt.
Do you just want to talk a little bit about what PTSD is? Because,
Yeah, and just before I do that, I should mention that although we set out to focus on PTSD, and that was, sort of our primary target, to check the results against that, we did look at the other disorders as well, because it's good practice to do so. So we looked at scores for PTSD, depression, anxiety, stress, and work and social adjustment, and all of them benefited. So, it's quite an all-round beneficial experience to do the fishing. But PTSD specifically it's a natural response to an unnatural occurrence or an unnatural experience, which makes you feel fearful, and if you feel that you may become harmed or lose your life. Doesn't even have to be happening to yourself. It could be vicarious. You can see something being perpetrated on another and get vicariously disturbed by it. So, in layman's terms, if there were 10 of us in the room, something traumatic happened, all 10 of us would probably react or respond initially in pretty much the same way. So we'd all be really upset and shocked and tearful and cry and horrified or whatever. And then maybe 6, 7, 8 of us, after a period of time, a month, 6 weeks, 3 months, whatever, would slowly sort of return to a level where that level of distress drifted away. It would always be a distasteful event, but you wouldn't get distressed when you thought about it. So the ones that are left behind, and it doesn't seem there is no rhyme or reason for it.
I was going to ask that.
No, it doesn't seem to be that. It doesn't seem to be people who have got sort of a history of better mental health or physically, look after themselves. But it doesn't seem to be any sort of rhyme or reason to why it happens to individuals. But what happens is that when that traumatic event occurs, your brain releases adrenaline. It thinks it's fearful, fight or flight. We need to get out of here, or we need to stand and fight our corner.
Stress hormones and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the byproducts of that jolt of adrenaline can be that the memory gets misfiled in the brain. So instead of going into the sort of the filing cabinet, if you like, where all your memories are kept, it goes into the emotional part of your brain. So the knock-on effect of that is, there are many knock-on effects, but the two major knock-on effects of that is, one, every time that memory is lit up or, it gets triggered, if you like, it's sitting in the emotional part of your brain. So it becomes very emotional and you become very distressed and fearful immediately. And two, it never gets a date stamp on it. It never becomes a historical memory. So this is when people, Johno's probably better placed than I to discuss this, but when people will say, it's like I'm back there. You would have heard of the classic sort of flashbacks, etc. But it doesn't necessarily need to be a visual or audible flashback. It could be a sensation. I felt just like I did when I was back there. It was like being back there. Well, part of the reason of that is the memory isn't date stamped, so it feels current. Your brain reads it as current, releases adrenaline again, and we're back to the start of that cycle. So I don't know if you've experienced that, John.
Well, you saw it on the documentary. I think a good 4 days that we've been in France, and it's right in the middle of nowhere. There was no traffic. There was nothing. We were the only people there. There wasn't even people walking the dogs or anything. We were the only people there, really chilled out, totally relaxed, low cloud base, nice and quiet. Next minute, a fast jet went hurtling over. And I don't know much about after that. I seen by pure chance, Nick had the camera still running, so he caught it. I'm having a seizure, which I know nothing about. Stu came round to me, which I've got no recollection of, and then I'm starting sitting around. Next minute, I've got you talking to me, and I'm thinking, "All right, Mark, how are you doing? What are you doing here?" Sort of thing.
Are we saying as well an initial sensitizing event where something happens in your life in the first place where all these other symptoms actually come from? Would that be the case with you?
Yeah, definitely.
You can trace it back to one event that causes.
Well, I don't think about it. You see, it's not as if a fast jet's coming hurtling over, and I've gone, "Oh, we used to have that in Sarajevo. Oh, quick, I've gone back to Sarajevo." That goes over, and I just don't know anything. I just bump. I've gone into automatic pilot. I've just totally dissociated, and
that dissociation is a defense mechanism. So Johno's brain at that point is saying, okay, we just got to shut down because we're going to overload with the emotion here. So I know you've seen the clip, but for Johno at that point, he's not with us. If you've gone on a long car journey and you might drive from here to Liverpool to go back to uni or whatever, you might get out the other end and go, I can't really remember much of that journey. I certainly don't remember changing gears, and because at some points you can attenuate to something else. You could be thinking about going.
It's like
fishing.
being in a hypnotic kind of state.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very much so. And it's in a sort of a protective mode. Johno's brain's gone, no, this is too much, and it shuts him down. He's down. His contact with reality is gone. What we have to do as mental health practitioners, psychologists, is to make sure we can get him back into reality as soon as we can and soothe him. So I don't know whether Johno remembers any of this, but I'm having to put a foot onto his foot. I'm literally stamping on his foot to try and just bring him back any way I can. Or I asked him to go around the lake and give me the name of all the other anglers. Who's that? Because then he's having to focus. And then that's very slowly he comes back. But very traumatic for not only for Johno, but for people witnessing it who aren't sort of used to that, aren't mental health practitioners. And that's a really important point that we need to make. And I know I mentioned this to you before. There are other people that realise that there's a benefit of fishing, and there is, which is wonderful. And they might say, okay, we're going to get a group of military veterans and take them fishing, which is great. However, there is a higher risk of someone being triggered amongst that group if they're all talking about prior incidents. If you don't have mental health professionals there on site with you to handle those situations if and when they happen, you're putting those guys at risk. So we pride ourselves on setting ourselves apart from the others. I know when at very early when Danny said that he would help us and support us and all that, one of the things that he mentioned that, was important to him, that, we cared for these guys. We made sure that they were at the lowest level of risk they could be. So we have a mental health support team on hand, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week when they're in France, to make sure that if and when this happens, and it did happen, it not happened to only Johno, Jay had a really bad experience when he was there as well. Without those mental health support, you've got a military veteran struggling, triggered by a lake in an environment that they're not used to. There's a lot of danger factors there. There's a lot of alarm bells ringing for me there. So it's really important that we sort of highlight that and say, it's all well and good these people saying, let's do a trip.
Yeah.
Without that support, it worries me.
Would you be able to cope better with if you were in those positions again on your own, or is this do you need the support of somebody else when you have those kind of events?
I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to react. This is the problem. I've got, and I showed Mark the other day, I had a little bottle of lavender oil. And I've always, if I'm going into London, it's a bit of an anti-anxiety bit, I've got that splashed on, and, if I feel myself, going through Euston Concourse, I'm going, it's really crowded and hustle bustle, and I'm sniffing in, and it keeps me calm.
Yeah.
You can feel it in your head. It's sort of diverting you away a little bit, and you're drawn towards the lavender as opposed to the stress of what's going on. But as I found in France, you see, low cloud base, I mean, if I'd have known, I've seen it in the distance coming in, I could have looked at it and gone, aircraft is safe, aircraft is safe. But unfortunately, I'm not blaming the military. The military train you and they mould you into what they want. And you are told in the military, the best form of defence is attack. So if you're feeling threatened and all that lot, the first thing you're going to do is start lashing out. And that has happened a few times. And then you go, oh God, what did I do that for? Because then you've got the complications of, if the police get involved, this sort of thing. I don't know why I did it. And then someone will come along and say, well, there was an aircraft or there was a loud bang or something like that, and he just went off on one.
How often do you think that happens, where people have done, committed serious crimes as a result of being in positions like that? That must be.
I would say, I would say it's a variable that should be considered. Yeah, I mean, most definitely. in a period of dissociation, I mean, and for some people we can talk 2 days, 3 days, something, an extreme end of that, and there is a complete detachment from reality. So they'll have no sense of what they've done or where they've been. Not necessarily military veterans, but I've worked with people that have been missing for 2-3 days, and then come to, if you like, in a completely new town. They have no concept of how they got there, no money in their pocket. So yeah, it's a possibility that could happen.
Yeah, that's worrying, isn't it? God, must happen.
It does, yeah. I'm sure it happens.
It is frightening.
Yeah.
And it's also very, very draining. Put to me by a psychologist who was dealing with me at the time, and he hit the nail on the head. It's a bit like the equivalent of an epileptic having a grand mal. An epileptic comes out of his seizure and all that lot, and they're absolutely drained. They felt like I've run a marathon. And it's the same with dissociation. When I came out, you feel absolutely hammered, and you haven't moved.
Do you have many of those?
I don't know. I've had quite a few minor ones. I've had a couple of good ones, which I must like to say my thanks and regards to Surrey Constabulary and Lancashire Constabulary as well. It's a bit funny now. There was no harm to anybody or anything. A guy played a prank. He let off a lot of caps when I was in the psychiatric unit, and I dissociated. The staff said, you just went. They said, good God. And I went up, jumped over the fence, up into the hills, And about an hour later, they closed the M25.
Oh my God.
Because I was running down the hard shoulder of the M25 with no shirt on the 21st of January, freezing cold, 6 o'clock at night.
God.
And I've got no knowledge of being there or anything. And I was interviewed by the police 2 weeks later because obviously there had to have been an incident. But they were telling me stuff. I was like, what? And the guy, the sergeant who dealt with me, he said, listen, mate, we couldn't believe it. He said, you were all pumped up. He said, we couldn't keep up with you. He said, you were absolutely leathering it down the hard shoulder. I said, I've never seen you before in my life. I said, what are you on about? And I genuinely knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
And it is frightening because I had another episode, and when I came round, I was sort of looking, what's going on here? And there's 2 transit vans with blue lights flashing, 5 coppers stood there, and a security guard lying on the ground. I'd thumped him. I feel sorry for the guy. I mean, I've got no knowledge of what? What are you on about?
Which makes this stuff,
it is. It's also embarrassing.
It's nothing to be.
No, it's embarrassing. I'm a good lad. I've had my moments and laugh, in life, but I keep on the right side of the law, and it's a bit embarrassing because I think I've stepped over that, and I've been lucky that the police recognise it.
Yeah.
And that they've been, right, hold on, this is not a criminal act, it's a mental health act. So...
nothing to feel embarrassed about, is there?
No.
You've served our country.
Yeah,
and
but
protected us.
I do, because I feel like I've lost control of myself when I've always been a very confident and competent individual. And I've always, right, I'm going to do that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, what? I did what?
The difficult thing is it doesn't need to always be quite as overt as a low-flying jet plane. It could be some very sort of micro signal. It could be a smell. It could be a sound. It could be just a sense. Just a felt feeling that can trigger people. So thankfully nothing untoward happened to Johno in that time. But and it was quite clear that it was the fighter jet. But if he'd in the situation where he's thumped the security guard and he can't. Nobody can put a very clear trigger to it. It's a harder thing for him to justify. So they can say, well, you didn't have a gun go off behind you, so how can? It's a very nuanced disorder, and it can be triggered by many different things. It's really difficult.
So you got into so you made a film called Lifted.
Yeah.
What inspired you to do that?
I've at Essex University, they've got a great film department as well, and I'd had a conversation with Nick Blower, who ends up making the documentary. Again, just a casual chat. This is what I'm doing. He said, that would be amazing for us to make an observational documentary and follow. And not so much about fishing. You've seen the film, so you'll know. There is it's covered and there are shots of the fishing and it's explained why we use it, but more about PTSD, the impact on the individual and the impact on the family and the social group, because this is what people forget. Johno is struggling. That's difficult and really upsetting for him. But as he said quite clearly earlier, he started to lose friends because I think you used the term as social hand grenade. He's unpredictable. People sort of distance themselves and move away from you. So what we thought would be powerful, one would be to demonstrate what we're doing. So there's of course there's an element of that. We want to show people what we're doing, showcase what we're doing. Hopefully somebody will look at that and want to support us and help us. But much more importantly, have a tool, if you like, that people can watch and help them build their awareness. So whether you're, someone who works in a mental health profession and you're used to working just with the individual and may not have thought of, hang on a minute, what about the partners, the children? What about the family and friends? How are they being involved? Can we educate them and help them to make life easier for these people who are struggling? and we wanted to take it to a wider audience. So the idea was we're running this week-long trip into France. 10 veterans, all with PTSD, a formal diagnosis of PTSD, and Nick Blower followed them. We picked 3 of the 10.
All happy to be filmed and stuff.
Yeah,
they knew
absolutely.
what they were letting themselves.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. All sort of similar to we did here. There's a consent form, etc. And so they were fully aware of that, and interviewed Johno, and the pictures have gone down now. There were a couple of the other guys that were on there. Interviewed them beforehand, got a sense of how things were for them before they went. Followed them during the trip, and then afterwards as well. And I'm really proud to have been part of it, and I think Nick's done it's quite an amazing piece of work. It's very, very emotional.
It is. It's quite hard hitting at times. Yeah.
It's quite challenging to watch. It's challenging to watch because, of course, when Johno came, I had no knowledge. I'd never met him before, don't know him. But over a period of time, he's become a friend. So now, even though it's retrospectively going back and seeing him struggling, I find it very difficult, and it's uncomfortable, but necessarily uncomfortable. People should see this film. People should watch it.
How can people watch it?
That's a good question. Currently, the film sits at the BBC acquisitions department, but has done so for quite a period of time. So we were hopeful that it would be picked up for sort of a terrestrial screening, but at the moment that hasn't happened. So I guess from there, I know I've had a couple of emails with Ali, and he said that maybe he could knock on a few doors for me at ITV and see whether they might be interested. But we will be taking it out to film documentary festivals, and from there, if we don't get what we hope for, which is some sort of release on a TV channel, I'll make it available free of charge. I'll put it up on iCarp's website, or we'll get it out there somehow. We've been out. Johno's been part of this as well. We've taken it on tour to sort of hard to access audiences. So we've been into prisons and played it to military veterans and staff in prisons. We've done NHS services, King's College London. We went down and played to their psychology department. So we've done quite a few, I think maybe 12, 15 screenings, hoping to come in here, play it to you guys.
That would have been great.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We'll do it.
Yeah.
I mean, coronavirus willing, we'll come in and play it, because I think I really would like to take this opportunity to emphasise the role that, it's a big cog in what we do, is what you guys do. And even though, to perhaps a big company like Korda, things like being sent 10 hats for them to wear, these guys love it. They really, really appreciate it. And, not that for 1 minute you're doing it for this reason, but they're Korda fans. This is it. They're supporting us. They're behind us. So, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to come here and play it to you guys here.
Absolutely. I'm sure everybody would love that as well, for you to do that. So would you look to make more films in the future? I mean, that film's a very good case study as well, isn't it, for people to watch? I mean, it's very educational as well as, is it something that you would possibly look to do again, or?
Yeah, I mean, whether Nick would like to, follow iCarp or our studies again, I'm not sure, but we were really aware of how powerful that is. And even if it's not sort of into the sort of the quality and the length of lifted, we're aware of the power of social media. A couple of examples I'll give you briefly. So when we went back to France 2019, we had a guy on the trip called Stefan, he's had his troubles and continues to struggle a little. But he was really brave, and he decided that he wanted to do a little piece to camera and be very honest and say that he'd been struggling a bit and he'd been experiencing these symptoms, blah, blah, blah. Which was a fantastic little clip that we put out. from that, somebody viewing that clip, I got an email come through to me from somebody saying, I understand and recognise what Stefan's going through, and I actually feel I'm in that place, in fact, somewhere even darker, and I intend to end my life tonight. So, of course, we go into immediately, we're up, and we're the whole team is trying to, how can we make this happen? And we're trying to encourage him to give us more details, and I'm keeping him talking, and we're moving from email onto text so that it's more, it's live and it's current. And through the night, I managed to negotiate with him and talk him down, and we managed to get him to agree to give his girlfriend and parents' phone number. So I then contacted them, and then we were able for them to go to the house, keep him safe. And through that little clip that we put out on the Wednesday night or whenever it was, we've managed to save someone's life, which is humbling, truly humbling. And I went round the next day and telling everybody, I'm not ashamed, and I'm sure no one else will be ashamed. There was a lot of tears the next day that when we realised how important what we do is to people, and how it can be just watching that little clip is enough to hold him long enough. We spoke about it before, about that window. When that window passes over you, that's the danger window, because it is fleeting. In most cases, it will pass through, but we need to manage that passing through. So it's incredibly powerful when something like that happens, and incredibly humbling. Sadly, we were at a funeral last week for one of the guys who came quite regularly with us, and he didn't take his own life. He had medical complications and sadly lost his life. But during the eulogy that his brother gave, he spent quite a period of time talking about iCarp and how important we were to him. And again, really, really emotional, particularly for Johno, who's particularly close with him, but for all of us. And it brings home how important, if we're saving lives, it's incredibly important that we keep doing this. So, humbling is the word we're looking for, really.
And you think people watching, it's more real and it's more graphic when people can actually see it on the screen in front of them as well. It seems to sort of get the point home.
I think it is. I think it's whether they can see it or hear it. I mean, on another occasion, I think I've spoken to you, Simon, about this. I rang somebody to come, and quite blasé when he turned up, he said, "Oh, I was really pleased you rang me to come to this trip."
I know. Yeah,
I said, it's fine. And he went, well, he said, because I was sitting in a car about to drive into a wall and end my life.
Wow.
So, there's because I think, I can't say this for sure, but I think I ummed and ahed. Shall I call him? Shall I text him? And, I'll just call him. It's quicker. If I text, he wouldn't have looked at the text. So, this is the stakes we're playing with. But this is the rewards as well, because that guy has gone on to become one of our mentors and is doing really, really well. He's in employment. So that's lovely for us. We're not infallible. We'll trip and fall, and somebody will slip through our fingers, but at least we'll catch some. That's really important.
Yeah. The film was, it was hard hitting at times, but it was also a really nice film to watch as well. I mean, it was a group of guys going fishing. Wasn't there a late record as well?
Yeah. So a couple of things about the late record. One, it was the late record, which was fantastic, but quite amusingly is that the guy who caught it, Adam, said, "Can I name the fish?" And it wasn't a name. He went, "Yeah." He said, "I'm going to call the fish Big Loretta." Okay, and he just picked that out of thin air. Big Loretta. Well, unbeknown to anybody,
right,
one of the guys on the other side of the lake, Andy, his wife happens to be called Loretta.
Right.
So she's then got on the phone going to Andy, "What have you been saying? Why is this fish named after me?" he spent the whole afternoon going, honestly,
was it a very attractive looking fish?
Beautiful fish. And it was the best fish in the lake, so she should have been honoured.
I'll check the pictures up. Is it one of them on there? Is it?
That's Big Loretta, yeah. On the top, that's it. And that's Adam Loader, who caught it.
Lovely.
And so and the following year we went back and broke the lake record again.
Yeah.
So
did you?
In 2019 we took 11.
How big was it? What, 60, 61, 62 pounds?
That was just under 60, I think.
Was it? Yeah.
At that occasion, and so we took 11 last year. One was a non-angler because she's unable, she's paraplegic, unable to, but came with her husband who's a veteran. And of the 10 that fished, 9 got a PB.
Really?
So we couldn't do
well,
that.
You've definitely picked the right lake there.
The lake is beautiful.
Yeah, 2 lakes. 2 lakes.
Le Curoy down in the southwest of France. The guy who owns it, Dan, is ex-military himself, and him and his wife Jodie have been really generous, and on a couple of occasions let us go there, and hopefully we'll go back again because we love it there. Yeah.
There was a prerequisite with Johno as well, wasn't there? Because you needed a lake with some silver fish in it.
Oh, there's a cracking head of roach in there.
You saw what you caught.
You saw, yeah. I just sat there and just sprayed red maggot and hemp, and I was just absolutely non-stop. And that, like I said, that was very instrumental in my my change of approach and my life at the time. Because all of a sudden, it was like 2 or 3 days of non-stop catching. I'd forgotten about everything. Can I just go back a bit about saying about
sure.
the about lifted there? Was it last week or the week before you did a viewing?
Mm-hmm. Simon was at the viewing.
Yeah, but that day you were doing one for mental health staff. Right now, people who deal with people, not veterans, but people with mental health, so they relate to how sad they can be and how anxious and all this lot be. But there was a couple of them got up, wasn't there, and left. They were so upset because it does. I've seen that probably 9 or 10 times now, and it still gets to me. Part of me, do I feel embarrassed at the way I was? I can get through the embarrassment side of it because it's doing people good.
I think if they're walking out, people are walking away from that thinking we've got to be doing more, haven't we?
Yeah.
That's the feeling that we're not doing enough.
There's people. Where were we? It was at Lakeside, up at Colchester. Yeah, I got quite a few people saying to me, blimey, good God, and that was hard hitting, and we didn't realise this. And there are people who work in mental health. Psychologists, psychiatrists, CPNs, that sort of thing. So they got knowledge, but they didn't see the veteran side of it, the combat side of it. And it was quite moving. And they were, quite touched by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're looking at it from a clinical side, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's when you get into the emotional side of that stuff as well that it hit home for me. I said to you, Mark, as well, when I was driving home, I spoke to my good friend who's been in the fire service for 25 years. And I told him what I watched. And I said, you seeing much of this in the fire service? And he said that most of the firefighters that have got PTSD are ex-military.
That's right. Yeah, I know from experiences I've had, the firefighters, that they get to a bad incident straight away.
It's a trigger again.
Yeah, well, straight away they're all taken in, and they get a therapist in straight away, and they talk about it and they offload it, and then hopefully it won't lead to complications.
Yeah.
But like you say, if you've got guys who have been in the military, then they join the fire service.
They're going in with that baggage.
They're turning up with that trauma already in their head where they haven't had it dealt with and processed it. They're turning up straight away. Apart from dealing with the incident they've got at the time, they're also fighting the demons of, we went through this in Afghanistan or Iraq or Bosnia or Northern Ireland,
Yeah. You'd like to think people could just get help before they... I mean, that's a big step, isn't it, to come out of the military and then step straight into a career like that. It's you don't realise, do you, until you get into that.
No.
Yeah.
I talk about getting help. I mean, not necessarily military veterans, but in general, from incident, from the traumatic incident to seeking out formal help, the average period of time is 8 years. So people will suffer on average for 8 years. So there'll be people past that, and that's for the general population. I think it probably, I don't know this statistically, but I think it would be even longer for military.
Well, I'd say yours was a good 4 years. I mean, you could have done anything in those 4 years.
No, I was 20 years.
20 years?
Yeah, it was 1995, and it was 2014 when and 2015.
Sorry, right.
So I'm 18, 19. But there was a guy in the psychiatric unit with me. He was ex-RMP. Now, he was probably 72-year-old. This is 2015. And he'd started getting flashbacks and having problems relating to him getting blown up in Northern Ireland in 1972. You know, it can sit there. They reckon it's about 17 to 20 years. It raises its ugly head. But people can sit there 40 years down the line, and all of a sudden it just takes something to trigger it.
But, you know, you spend a few years training to be a soldier in the first place, and then you come out of the military, and you would think it wouldn't necessarily take too much if you can jump on it straight away to be able to eradicate all that stuff. But when you're talking 20 odd years of continually living with that, it's no surprise. And suicides and everything must be, you know, as a result of that.
The suicide rate amongst military veterans compared to the general population is much higher, and it continues to happen. Johno probably give you more statistics than I can, because I know that he's, you know, you're very aware, you monitor it, don't you?
We just lost another one, actually. We're up to this year so far. Now, I said this last week, and I said to people, right, let's put it into perspective. What does everybody know about what's battered all over the media at the moment? And everybody said, coronavirus. Now, a week ago, I said, right, how many people so far this year have died of coronavirus? And it was like 4 or 5. 4 or 5. And we know all about this. I said, how many veterans have taken their own life this year? Now, last week when I said about it, I think it was 11 or 12. I said, did anybody know that? No. They don't hear about it.
No.
You don't. And it's also mental health in general. People committing suicide. You might get something in the local newspaper, but that's it. Yet there's this big thing about coronavirus. Get out there, get your toilet rolls, you know, this sort of thing. But there's people, we're now up to 14 veterans and 1 serving airman from Wittering.
And we're mid-March. Well, end of March.
Exactly.
You know.
So what do you think the angling community can do in general to kind of get behind this? I mean, I know that we do help the heroes and stuff like this, but would you would like to see more involvement?
Yeah, I'd love to see more. I mean, we've got a wish list.
So what's on your wish list?
Oh, no, wish list. Okay. Nirvana would be to have a base, to have our own lake that we could use, ideally with a small sort of centre, if you like, on it, or a small building on it, that we could have a base there. Because I think what we really need to look at is not only does it, is it benefiting people, but we need to look at that dosage. So if I bring you in, Simon, you do really well, that's great. But if I leave you 6, 8, 9 months, then that's slowly going to start to return unless we keep that dosage going. So someone may be watching this, hopefully watching this podcast, listening to this podcast. Someone somewhere is sitting with a lake that they're either not using or, not using to a high level. It could be overgrown. It can be no stock in it. We've got a promise of stock from a fish farmer. He said he'll stock a lake for us if we can find one. Things like work parties and all that. Hell, I've got military veterans coming out my ears. I can get them down. They'll mobilise that. They'll get that done. Sure. Yeah. So it would be wonderful if somebody was out there and had a venue that we could use. We've been really lucky with the support that Korda have given us, and we hope, I'm sure it will happen, but we hope that continues. We'd like to increase that relationship, do more with you guys. Anybody that's wants to help in any way, shape or form, get in touch with us. You know, we need volunteers. We need simple things. We need people that are happy to come and help cater. You know, someone who maybe wants to come and help cook for the guys, or just mentors that can come along and, you know, maybe have been through it. Not just military veterans. I mentioned it briefly, but perhaps now's a good time to sort of expand. Blue light services. These guys, you know, they struggle. They go out and they experience terrific trauma when they're in the heat of combat. But your police and your fire and your paramedics are getting traumatized daily. And in the current climate, with the coronavirus going on, the National Health Service and the police, they are going to be stretched beyond anything they've ever experienced before. And the knock-on effect of that, sadly, there's going to be coming out the other end, people struggling with their mental health. So, you know, we'd like to help those groups as well. So if anybody's out there financially, of course, nobody gets paid. No one takes a wage from iCarp. All the money that is donated goes towards running the trips. So, you know, things that people forget that we have to fund. So getting people there, transport, you know, that's a big cost for us. Catering for them. We get lots of, we get our end tackle from you guys, but we need rods and reels. We have to buy that stuff, bivvies, beds. If you're taking 10 people plus coaches, that's a lot of stuff to mobilise. Anything that anybody would be interested in helping us with, we'd be very, very, very grateful.
Yeah, we'll put some details up, Toad, won't we?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You know, anything you need from us, we'll do some Instagram stuff on that.
Yeah.
What about iCarp in general in the future? I mean, it's you see that expanding into blue light and other areas.
Yeah, we do. I've been doing it now for 7-8 years, and it's come a personal high cost to me in many ways, and a financial cost to me. I'm happy to keep doing that, but you know, I'm a single dad, self and Bailey. I need to work as well. I need to pay bills. I need to put food on the table for us. So you know, that's a challenge. So we would like to grow. We'd like to become more national. We've had some tentative talks with John here and all that, perhaps about doing a trip to Northern Disney and stuff like that, and picking up people there.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it really would.
Yeah.
Internationally, that's really exciting. We spoke to Korda Europe, Kevin Dearden, and we're trying to put together a trip. Now, it's all got a little bit derailed with the coronavirus at the moment, but we are trying to put together a trip for later this year for Dutch and Belgian veterans, which is really interesting for us because, you know, we can run the same tests and see if we get the same results on a different population. I'm making the assumption they have the same sort of humour as these guys. You would imagine they have, but maybe they don't, you know.
You seem to disagree with that a little bit, John.
Yeah, I've worked... I've got to be careful we don't hit the old racist card here, haven't we? Very
Yeah,
hard.
be careful.
I found it very challenging working in Sarajevo with the French. You know, it was...
Yeah.
Some cracking one-liners used to come out, you know.
It's all endearment, though. That's what we said, wasn't it?
I love the French.
Yeah, of course.
The thing is, I mean, and we couldn't rely on the Italians for transport because, you mean, if you look at their tanks, it's got 1 forward gear and 5 reverses. You know, so there's an outtake for you.
Yeah,
That's not an outtake.
That's a bloopers reel.
it's all staying in.
Oh, it's the sense of humour can be interesting, but I think from this point of view, because of what we're here for, you know, to promote mental health and make people better. Yeah, with a bit of banter and everything like that, but I think we'd all be geared towards relaxing, improving our mental health, getting on with the angling, this sort of thing.
What about you, John? Johno, what are you? What are the plans in the next?
My plans are. I mean, I've had a bit of a hiccup last month. We'll get through this, and then hopefully, I will just plunge myself into iCarp and another charity who looked after me. My therapist has got plans for me, as we've said, the best person to be a counsellor for Alcoholics Anonymous. He's a reformed alcoholic. So they're looking at me working. We're going to get some veterans together and me start working with them. And I'll spend, like one session a week for 2 or 3 weeks. And then she will hit them with a session. Then I'll do another 2 or 3 weeks with them, and then she'll hit them. She'll be my supervisor. Every therapist and psychologist needs a supervisor to offload. Otherwise you'll end up hanging yourself, sort of thing, really. If you're getting all this trauma thrown at you.
I think you'd be very good at that. You talk well, don't you?
Well, actually, going back to that lad at his 7 roach and 5 rud, I remember that so, it's absolutely stamped in my head. It was Dylan that noticed it. I didn't. He said to me that night, he said, "You didn't know I was walking behind you." And he stopped. He said, "You were talking to that lad, the way you were talking to him and encouraging him and getting him to develop his swim and all that lot." He said, "That was fantastic to listen to." He said, "That was brilliant." Now, I did that subconsciously. I just thought, right, I've got a lad with issues. We need to sort this out. I don't want him sitting there with his head down. Right, come on, mate. Right, let's get you fishing. And I just did it. I went into automatic pilot. I just went through it. I got him fishing and I got him casting and feeding and everything he was doing. And he was then using the old landing net. I was using the landing net. It was only small fish. He could have swung them in. But I was getting him to use it because it was coordination, getting his hand and eyes working together again, so his brain's functioning. And I've also taken him away from what he was thinking about 2 or 3 hours ago. And it was Dylan that noticed it. He said that was fun. Yeah, he said, "You're absolutely spot on, Johno." It was great.
It's the old adage, isn't it? I mean, if you were learning to drive a car, you wouldn't want an instructor that's never passed their driving test, would you?
No.
And
That's right.
You look for people like yourself.
Gamekeeper, isn't it? Is that the term?
What's that?
Poacher turned gamekeeper.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Guys, I've really enjoyed this podcast. It's been different for us, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about £50 carp all the time and stuff, but it's been really hard hitting but really, really interesting. And, especially with what's going on at the moment, it's relatable to a lot of people. And John, I wish you well. Tobe, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say as well, can you just re-emphasize if people need help, where they can find you guys? I think it's important that they know that helps out.
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. So we've got our own website, which is iCarp.org.uk. Of course, there's a Facebook page like there is with everything now, and Instagram. Contact us via that. I mean, that will come eventually. That'll come through to me. Feel free for any reason to contact us through that. And if you're struggling, just get in contact and we'll try. And even if we can't help immediately, we'll signpost you to something appropriate that can hold you until we can get you in. As I said, currently everything is postponed because of coronavirus, but doesn't mean that we're not going to still be monitoring those sites, and we will make sure that people are kept as safe as we can.
You can message us as well. And we're on Instagram now, and we respond to comments, messages and stuff. So we'll let you know as well.
And you can signpost back to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that goes as well. If we had a question the other night, this woman, her sister was very ill. Yeah. If you've got a neighbour who you know is a veteran and they're struggling, get on the site, tell Mark. Yeah, and then we'll get the feelers out and we'll get out to them. Don't let people suffer in silence.
No, they're not on their own.
It's a silent killer. Don't let these people become another statistic when we can help.
Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Thanks very much.
Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you. No worries.
The Think and Tackle podcast.